Hi, I'm Michelle Collins and I'm an actor, but also an ex-ED sufferer. That means I had an eating disorder when I was in my teens and early 20s. I was one of the lucky ones. I survived and have managed to live a healthy, happy life. However, I was shocked when I saw the recent statistics about eating disorders and the terrible impact of the pandemic. It made me want to find out more and investigate about this often deadly illness. The pandemic has had a devastating impact on vulnerable people, increasing anxiety and isolation, leading to anorexia and bulimia. It's been described as a tsunami of patients needing treatment. So what is anorexia nervosa? What is bulimia? And what causes EDs? And why are they not taken seriously? Why is it just seen as mainly an illness in middle-class, rich, spoilt, self-absorbed girls? I want to dispel the misconceptions. In this documentary, I'll be talking to ED sufferers, male and female, and Simon Brown, whose daughter Emma died of anorexia, mothers, daughters, and also PEDS, a specialist ED charity founded by two nurses, Mandy and Sue, who will be telling me why getting early support is vital to stop people being hospitalised and how it is possible to recover and lead a healthy, happy life.
I have suffered from anorexia for on and off for about 10 years now. It got to a point where I couldn't live like it anymore.
I did want to eat, but I was too scared of eating. My wife was saying, I can feel and see your bones. And my hair falling out and not being able to physically function.
Because in the community, eating disorders weren't ever spoken about. I think even in my religion, you're supposed to kind of be grateful that everything that God gives you. What I was worried about, that people would think that I'm obsessed with being a tiny person, just wanting to be as skinny as possible, but it was so much more than that. I mean, my mental health was I was not okay. And I think that the eating disorder gave me a sense of control.
I developed bulimia, and that sort of lasted for about 9 months. And then I started restricting again, and that was sort of my only sort of hit with it. But I think the anorexia has always kind of been huge periods of starvation and then periods of where I haven't been able to, I guess, control it. And so it's become a little bit more bulimic and purging. And people don't see eating disorders as mental illness.
It takes over your brain, and then the next thing you know, like, you can't really control what you're doing. I felt like more people would like me if I was smaller. I felt like every time I ate something, I was failing at what I was trying to achieve.
I have had an eating disorder since my teens, so it's a really big secret. It was a secret for around 20-ish years, or I get stuck in that awful trap of the binge and purge. It just consumes everything though, that's the thing. It's a very consuming condition to have. I still have really bad days. I'm still not where I need to be.
So Emma was really badly bullied. She had lost half of her body weight. She'd gotten to the point where she couldn't walk upstairs. We were feeding her water through a pipette. So she was emaciated. She wasn't physically, her bones had deteriorated. She was no longer able to do her running and her sports and what have you. She was sort of becoming trapped in an 80-year-old body at 20, in her 20s. It's an illness that is, as I hopefully described it, it's destructive, it's deadly, it's extraordinarily vicious in what it does and how it takes hold. It is the most deadly of all mental health illnesses.
Yeah, I've always had low self-confidence, low self-esteem. I've always been shy. So I think just doing that, just sort of like disappearing, I think, making myself smaller so nobody would see me. And then like I started getting the hair falling out, getting really tired, getting hair all over my body and just having no energy at all. Social media is just toxic for somebody with an eating disorder.
maybe I remember thinking, well, maybe it's because I'm too fat. I started to kind of take laxatives, and then I started binging, and the doctor said, she looks fine to me and you can never be too thin or too rich. I was kind of quite hedonistic. I was going out late, drinking a lot, binging, being sick, laxatives. Just kind of spiraled into not a very good place. And then one day I went to another audition and someone phoned up my agent and asked my agent if I was a heroin addict. To be honest with you, I don't think you ever recover from it. I think you learn to live with it.
We've seen the numbers grow so quickly. We're about 500% more than we were before the pandemic.
We're having more men, definitely more young guys, and more transgender patients coming to us.
So the youngest person we have seen is a 4-year-old. They had been copying somebody at school who was teaching them how to put their fingers down the throat, and they got it from their mother. The eldest person was 83, and she'd been binge eating all her life and thought that was normal, but now realised it wasn't and wanted to stop. But it is extremely worrying, and it's got the highest mortality rate of any mental health illness.
There needs to be, in terms of capacity, there needs to be more specialist eating disorder nurses around the country. We're at maximum capacity now. And it's such a secretive illness as well. There's still this, we're trying to change that, but people still say that they feel ashamed to tell someone or ashamed to admit that they've got an eating disorder because they've lost control, or they feel that, they could have or should have handled things better. So there still is those misconceptions and lack of understanding, and that's where training and awareness is so important.